Welcome to TrulyFit.
Dmitri, thank you so much for joining the TrulyFit Podcast. Why don't you give my listeners and audience a little background on who you are, your credentials, and what you do day to day in the health and wellness industry?
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Dmitri, and I am a co-founder of TaoPatch in the US. So we are a wearable wellness device that combines light therapy with acupuncture and via nanotechnology. And so we can talk about that more in detail. Myself, I've been involved in, other than a health kind of junkie just in life, I've been involved for a few years in the transformative tech space. And so we had a conference and we used to organize events around the world. And basically it's the kind of the intersection of technology and wellness. So wellness tech. And with TaoPatch, we're really excited to help folks with just health and longevity, as well as performance and recovery for athletes.
Whenever you're in the business of something that's not standard, let's call it Western medicine, people are always going to have questions, right? They probably should have more questions about Western medicine, but they're always going to question things like acupuncture and light therapy, and they're going to need the science to back it, right? So you guys have that term nanotechnology. What exactly fits into nanotechnology? We can talk about that first, and then we can talk about some of the studies behind your product.
Absolutely. So what we mean by nanotechnology? So the product itself is a little it looks like a plastic coin. And it really doesn't look like much, but what it is, so it contains layers of a nanomaterial that we've developed that has a very unique quality. Basically, when you place it on your body, what it does is it captures your infrared energy, so your heat, in other words, and then converts it into a broader spectrum of light. So all the way from infrared to ultraviolet. And so there is literally 9,700 studies on PubMed on light therapy in general. We're closer to the subset of light therapy called low-level laser therapy, which is also very well studied form of medicine. But so what normally the issue with light therapy and low-level laser therapy specifically is the devices are quite bulky. They require a connection to an outlet, and they're expensive. And so normally you can apply it for an hour at best, right? Well, hour a week, or if you have one at home, it could be an hour a day. But the issue is that then you kind of go back to your normal life. And it really, this amount of time doesn't give your body enough time to kind of integrate this therapy and apply it. And so with this development of this nanomaterial, we can just stick it to your body, specific points. And this is where acupuncture comes in. It's tied to Chinese medicine. And when this light enters your body, it has depending on where you place it on the body, has all sorts of different effects. But in a nutshell, this light helps your central nervous system communicate more effectively with the rest of your body. And the benefit of having it be so tiny and of this nanomaterial is that it works for 2.5 years without batteries. So you just wear 24/7 and your own body heat powers the effect.
What is the component that runs out, for lack of a better term?
It's not even that it completely stops working after 2.5 years. It's just the rate at which this material converts your body heat into light diminishes over time. And for 2.5 years, it's 100% effective. And then it slowly gets less effective. So that's why we say 2.5 years kind of guaranteed. And then after that, it's less so.
Is this light, can you explain the difference between this light and, let's say, natural light, a light you would get from some particular equipment like one of those light beds? What are the differences in the ranges?
Honestly, not much. I mean, light is light. The thing is, so because and why is this important? Why is this light why is it working? Why is it helpful?
Yeah.
Well, there are two reasons. One, our nerve cells use, first of all, electricity to communicate with each other, but they also use photons. And I wasn't taught this in school, but back in the 70s, they showed that our neurons actually use photons of light to communicate as well. And so this light is very similar to those photons. And so it kind of reminds your body, in a sense, how to communicate naturally with itself. And then the reason this is important is, we over the millennia evolved with natural light, with the sun, in the morning, which is a little bit more, there are a few more ultraviolet wavelengths, and then kind of all the way to the evening and the sunset, where it's a little bit more infrared. And so this whole color spectrum is very important for our bodies to function. And in the last 100 or a couple hundred years, we've been kind of stuck inside, right, with artificial lighting. And so a lot of those wavelengths our body doesn't really receive them. And so it's really important to have the different colors of light absorbed into the body. And so this is what TaoPatch actually does. A lot of the light beds and a lot of other products out there, they do use those beneficial wavelengths, and this is why they work, and this is why the studies show that they're very effective. Ours is just, again, it's a very unique way of miniaturizing this technology that allows you to wear it 24/7.
Yeah, I've seen some pieces of equipment, not only that were, the size of a twin bed, but they cost $120,000. So, being able to put something that's on your body, that's a piece of nanotechnology, and that's significantly cheaper than that would seem to be a much better option. Now, can you speak to, like you mentioned earlier, the placement on your body? Why would you put it on the back of your neck as opposed to your wrist, as opposed to your leg? And could you use multiple at one time?
Mm-hmm. So yes, you can absolutely use multiple at one time. There are several points that we recommend. So first of all, it is really helpful for injury recovery. So if you have any kind of an injury, just placing it on that point where it hurts makes the pain go away. And what's really interesting is it doesn't just mask the pain. It's not a painkiller. It actually goes to the root of the problem, and it helps the healing. So the pain kind of naturally disappears. And then the second the set of points that we use come from Chinese medicine. This is why we say it's a combination of light therapy and acupuncture. So rather than applying this light, kind of like a light bed, to your entire body, there are specific points where it's particularly beneficial. And so there are 2 points that we recommend for everyone, especially in the beginning. And one of them is on the Ren meridian, so on your sternum, and the other one is on your spine. And these are kind of two of the key meridians in Chinese medicine. And there are 2 points that we've seen over the years work best for a general kind of balance, overall well-being, and focus, proprioception, and so on. And then we also have specific protocols for different things, and they really come from Chinese medicine. So whatever you can use needles for, whatever acupuncturists use needles for, instead of needles, we place light. And so acupuncturists actually really love this because one of the key pain points is the patient comes in for an hour and they stick them with needles, and then they leave, and kind of their system adjusts back to their normal life. And so this is something they can just put on and wear in between the sessions. So does that answer your question? Sure,
certainly does. And you mentioned there was, a lot of these studies, over 9,000 on light therapy, and I've read them, and it's sort of been a fad recently, and it's really interesting. But what about on your product specifically? Have you had enough time to kind of go through the normal testing processes to have these studies?
Yeah, so we have 17 published studies. Not all of them are double-blind, but we have some that are double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. And so there are 2 groups of people that we've been particularly helpful for. And so really what mainly happens, like I mentioned, so when this light enters your body, it helps your brain communicate with the rest of your body more effectively. The first system that gets affected is your proprioception. And we've seen this in studies. We've also seen this anecdotally with pretty much every single person that puts them on. If you put them on force plates that measure your balance, your physical balance, how stable you are, there is a test where it looks at how your center of balance, center of gravity changes over the course of 1 minute. And normally for a normal person, there is a fair amount of variation. So our body kind of does these micro adjustments where you move around a little bit. When you put these on, in every single case, we've seen that you become a lot more stable. So that your center of gravity kind of just stays put, which means there is less energy being used for these micro adjustments. And this is just one effect of this. The overall sense of proprioception, your balance, your range of motion, your movement, speed, strength, all of this improves. And we have lots of athletes that wear them. So we have several world champions. We had 5 Olympic athletes who use them for performance and for recovery. And then, a few months ago, Novak Djokovic was caught on camera wearing it at Roland Garros tournament. And then at the press conference, he was asked, what is this thing you're wearing? And he actually said that this is the biggest secret of his career, and he wouldn't be sitting here without it today. His words, not mine. But then the second group of people that we've been, and this has been even more just encouraging for us, people whose nervous system doesn't communicate that well with the rest of their body. This does amazing things for them. So people with MS, Parkinson's, fibromyalgia, and other neurological disorders, for them, it's an astounding difference. And if you go to our website, TaoPatch.co, you can see before and after videos. And we ask our customers to take videos before and then after, and then continue making videos over time just to track progress. But the difference is incredible. I mean, you can see people who couldn't walk in a straight line start to walk straight within minutes. It's just astounding to see.
Yeah, and as someone like myself who works with seniors, I also work with a lot of movement disorders, so both Parkinson's and MS. It's when there is a fall, it's sad to see because they deteriorate very fast. Typically, the process is you fall, and because you're of a certain age, and because your proprioception is already lacking, you don't break your fall properly, which means now you have a serious injury. Maybe it's a fractured femur, maybe it's a fractured collarbone, whatever it is. Then it limits you. And then what happens is you become more deconditioned because you can't continue to walk or exercise and do these things because of the injury. And then things spiral out of control. And they've done a lot of studies on, one fall for somebody over the age of 60, especially with a movement disorder. And now their life expectancy is cut in half almost. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to make sure that, the proprioception and the ability for people to not get injured. To me, I think it's almost more interesting for that population than the athletes just getting that 1% better to use something like this.
Absolutely, and this is the thing. Like it's really heartwarming for us to work with athletes and see how it helps them. Every second, every minute counts in that case. But just to see what a difference it can make in the life of a person who's, we take these things for granted, but somebody who cannot walk normally, right? And we had some patients with Parkinson's who couldn't talk, and then after 6 months they start talking. I mean, it's just amazing to see.
That is amazing. And I will say, as somebody who does, again, work with this population, typically your goal when you're working with this population is to stay status quo because they almost never really get better. So, you kind of want to hold the line and not regress. So to have something where there's progress is very impressive. And I'm interested to look further into that. But now, when you do work with this population and you make these claims, I assume that this has to maybe be considered a medical device. Is the criteria for what you put this out different than, let's say, if you were putting out some sort of, wristband that was a compression wristband or a foam roller, something that has no technology? Is the criteria that you have to meet different?
Well, so really good point. Thank you for bringing it up. So we actually are very careful not to make any claims, right?
Yeah.
So if everything I say is just kind of, yes, we have studies certainly. But we're very careful because it doesn't work for everyone. We have, and this is why we have a money back guarantee. So if it doesn't reach your goals, or even if you just want to return it for any reason, we just simply ask that you send it back, and we happily refund you. Our refund rate is about 5%. So there's a certain amount of people who doesn't help, but vast majority of the people are very, very happy with the results. Now, in Europe, we are classified as a class 1 medical device. So what that really means is it's the same level of classification as a Band-Aid, meaning it's safe, it's extremely safe. So there's no counterindications, there's really no risk, and it can be self-applied by the person. So in the US, we're in the process of going through FDA clearance. We're almost at the very end. But, regardless, we want to be really careful and to not make any claims that we will absolutely, we don't promise anything, but we do promise you that if it doesn't work, we'll happily refund you. And what was the other thing I was going to say?
Well, a lot of times, sorry to interrupt, but a lot of times that's an advantage too, right? Because if you start to make those certain claims, now you're categorized as something different. You have to meet a whole level of different criteria. I know a lot of kind of, I guess you would say, like pseudo supplement companies that go, you know what, we believe our product is medicinal in how it acts and how it works, but we don't want to be classified that way because then now there's more regulation.
Absolutely, exactly. It's and it's it's a lot of it's an interesting space because there's especially working with MS, the MS population, there is we're kind of, I don't want to say we're going against the big pharma, but this is a very different space, right? It's a completely different business, and we are in the business of helping people live their life better. We don't claim that it helps helps heal, right, or cure MS or Parkinson's.
Sure.
We have seen an improvement in the lesions in some folks, but most importantly, it helps you reduce the symptoms and just live your life.
The entrepreneurs, they're all over the fitness industry, including myself, much like yourself. The process to start something like this, to go through the research and development, to design the packaging, to getting it out, to marketing, all of these things. What have you learned on this journey? If you were to create another product, what would you do differently, or what did you do properly the first time?
I think if you ask any entrepreneur, they would say, don't do it. it's not worth it. No, it's, I don't know if we would have done, I think we would have done probably a few things differently. I would say, just prepare for a slog, right? It's an uphill battle and this is not new information, right? I think everybody would say that. I would say kind of developing a new nanotechnology product is very expensive, takes a very long time. We're continuously in the process. We're always rolling out new products as well. I would say kind of piggybacking on existing developments. And if you're, for example, if you are a coach, if you are a trainer, or if you are in the fitness space, we are actually actively building our network of practitioners especially in the US. We already have a network of practitioners in Europe, but we're in the process of rolling it out here. So I would very much welcome anybody to reach out to us and and work with us and offer this to your clients.
Lastly here, is there a patent on this? How exactly does that work? Can you talk about licenseship and patents and how that maybe works differently in Europe and the US? And are you nervous about potential copycats?
Yes and no. So we have a patent that's in the final stages of approval as well. So it's been pending for a while, and it's almost granted. Patents are, it's a difficult thing because we know this is a very, very difficult and lengthy process to go through, and so we're not so worried about somebody copying, this technology exactly. That said, we welcome competition, and there's different ways of solving this problem. And if somebody comes up with a similar way or a different way of helping people who are really suffering and who can benefit from this, all better. This is a very big market, and there's plenty of, and especially with the world kind of in the state that it's in, with the toxicity, with pollution, with the lifestyle that's disrupted, imbalancing our body and disrupting our nervous system even further, I think this is a very big market for the future. Unfortunately.
Dmitri, this has been great information. Can you point my listeners towards where they can find more about TaoPatch?
Sure thing. It's TaoPatch.co, TAO patch, PATCH.co. And on the website, we have our social media, we have our email, our phone number. So if you have any questions, feel free to call us or contact us on social media or email. We'd be happy to help.
My guest today has been Dmitri Leonov of TaoPatch. Thank you for joining the TrulyFit Podcast.
Thanks again.